Hello dear friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel Mukesh English. In this video, I have brought you a famous TEDx talk by Gagan Chhabra, and the title of his TEDx talk is Exploring Ableism, an Invitation to Create an Inclusive Society. So before that, let's know what is the meaning of able and ism, ableism. Ableism is a new term with ism, which is known by very few people. This word coins respect and identity to the disabled who are able-bodied individuals living in the society. Though they are disabled, but even though they are similar to us, they are more able, they are very much able to live in this society. So this term ableism is coined. So let's know about the speaker Gagan Chhabra. Who is Gagan Chhabra? Gagan Chhabra is a researcher and speaker with a doctorate in philosophy from the Department of Social Work, Child Welfare and Social Policy at the Faculty of Social Sciences, OsloMet, Oslo Metropolitan University. He is a visually impaired. He's a blind person. He's a visually impaired, bringing a remarkable story from his life. He has traveled widely to elevate the status of disabled members of the society who are often viewed as a tragic victims than individuals. The new term ableism is now encountered by more than 1 billion people with disabilities globally. Through Gagan Chabra's research, he was able to broaden his perspective concerning his disability, inclusion, and the rights of persons with disabilities. So now let's begin his talk, what Gagan Chhabra says and how does he begins his speech. Gagan Chhabra begins his speech describing his outfit and the stage setup. He wants to be inclusive for individuals who are blind or partially sighted or visually impaired like himself. And moreover, he's a blind person of just 35 years old. He's a Norwegian, he's a Norwegian citizen of Indian descent and got PhD in disability research domain from Oslo Metropolitan University. And today, I mean to say, in this talk, he would like to speak on lesser known term called ism, like the term we have racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, but there's only one more term like ableism. So he is going to speak on ableism. So let's see. So I have tried to bring in this video his original quotes as well to make it more effective or easy to understand. So how does it define ableism? Ableism means prejudice or discrimination against an individual simply based on the fact that this individual has some sort of disability. He or she is classified as disabled either as a physical impairment or mental impairment or visible impairment. So Gagan Chabra has given here a few more examples to explain ableism, either physically impairment or mental impairment or to some extent visible impairment. Now, to understand, to contour, or to bring up an outline of ableism, he brings up here three important anecdotes. The first anecdote Gagan Chabra says here, where he says he would like to share three anecdotes from his life at Oslo and OsloMet. He says that a couple of years ago in springtime, he finished his work at OsloMet and he went to the familiar stop, tram stop, where the bus stop here, tram stop, which is outside of OsloMet, and he stood there waiting for his tram. He hears a tram approaching, but he knows this was not his tram because it is the old one, rickety one. It makes a lot of noise. He knows that what kind of tram it will be, and his tram makes some lot of noise, so he was able to identify the particular tram, and the tram number is 11. So what he decided to stand and to enjoy for a moment till his tram appears or approaches. After some time he feels somebody is pushing him into the tram, and he thanked him for the help. He asked, why did he have such lower expectations about him? and his capabilities to take the tram independently. Means to say, he was thinking that he asked himself that why did he have so much lower expectations about him? Why this person has pushed him into the tram, because he thinks about his incapability, or maybe he thinks that he's a disabled person, he cannot. So the here Gagan Chhabra asked here, why did he have such lower expectations about him or his capabilities to take the tram independently? Is it his long white cane or long dark hair? Is it all because of he was holding a cane, chadi, or long dark hair, or with a spectacle, that he thought that this person cannot enter? So this is the question he would like to ask himself about this person who has pushed him into the tram. Second anecdote, he says here, afterwards, later he decided not to go to the cafeteria. To get a sandwich, he needs to cross a road, and again somebody will help him. So what did he do? He waits for the sandwich, and the curious lady behind the counter, she gets very much familiar with him, and Gagan introduces himself, and he speaks about his profession as a research fellow, and she expresses a very wow feeling. She says wow, wow. And he says that this wow, wow has become why, because he never knew that being a blind or having a job could be so inspiring for the individuals, that a person will react in such a manner that can't a disabled person do any kind of job. He started to leave, and the lady yelled out, and she said, be careful on those steps, which he said, be careful. And Gagan Chabra thinks that, come on, these are the steps I already taken. So these steps he took earlier. He feels she's having again the lower expectations, that he cannot take the steps which he took before 5 minutes. So same like earlier, the person had the lower expectations about him, that he cannot enter the tram, and here also the lady has a lower expectations about him, that he cannot he cannot step he cannot cross those steps here. So this is the second anecdote he has mentioned here. Expressing his third anecdote, Gagan Chhabra says that in 2021 he completed his PhD and published his research papers. He had written a lot of about ableism in Norway, and he got featured in what as a cover story in one of the popular disability magazine. So he got a lot of fame and name in one of the disability magazine. So all those people, individuals, those who are not disabled, they assume the things about Gagan Chabra, and they judged him even before engaging with him. So what ableism generally means to say, they felt that okay, this magazine, this news has come, it's only for disabled. So they have already judged him as a disabled person. So ableism here generally does, it objectifies individuals either as a tragic victim or as an inspiring hero. The non-disabled individuals like us, we you might be looking at a disabled person, and you may think this person might be passive dependent child, like a sexual weak incompetent, needs to be taken care of. Or you might look at that disabled person who says this person is inspiring, brave, courageous, plucky, we can say plucky, resilient. So hence he has shared these anecdotes from Norway. Now, later he mentions his visual impairment in India. He says that his in India his visual impairment was explained in the form of his bad karma from his previous birth, and people express sorry for his bad deeds he did in his previous birth. So in India, his visual impairment was explained in the form of bad karma. पुनर्जन्म में कुछ गलत किया होगा, so that he has become like this. And people do express sorry also. So there are other individuals who said that this person is blind because he's a gifted, he's a very special person. So they put him on the pedestal of divinely inspired individual. He has become a godly person in the eyes of few people. In the eyes of few people, he has become a person who has done something wrong in his old janma, in his previous birth. So this is a visual impairment story in Indian context. So in both the examples, in the Indian context, Gagan has become a subhuman to some extent, or sometimes he has become a superhuman, but not an ordinary human being like us. This is what Gagan Chhabra talks about ableism here with such examples. Now he further quotes in the words of Gagan Chhabra, in both those instances in the Indian context, what happened is either I became a subhuman or I became a superhuman, but never an ordinary human. And this objectification of an individual as an object of inspiration is what this might be word which you might like something what inspiration porn. The non-disabled society members look at the disabled people and they say, yeah, I want to be inspired, like Stella Young great speech TEDx. So you might be wondering, hi, I understand. I'm really sorry that you encountered ableism in Norway. You encountered ableism in India, and this does not live with me. This does not resonate with me, and why should I be bothered about ableism? This is what Gagan Chhabra says. So, speaking about the disability across the globe, Gagan Chhabra asked a question. He asked a question here. How many people with disabilities are there across the globe? So, in the words of Gagan Chhabra, 15% of the world's population has a disability. One out of seven persons whom you would encounter in your life has some kind of disability, visible or invisible. 800 million of them, these people live in the global south, and there is one common factor, there's one common barrier which all these individuals from Norway to India, from United States to Uganda encounter, and this common problem is here ableism. Ableism, this is a common problem across the world. Now, later he says that we had a kind of some sort of privileged in Norway. What kind of privilege? So, describing the privilege, he also talks about the scene of ableism in Norway. In the words of Gagan Chhabra, we are very privileged. We are ranked number one on the Human Development Index in 2019. We are quite privileged. We have spent 4.3% of a GDP on disability protection, one of the highest in the world. Still, the 17.6% of the population which is disabled in Norway in some way, shape, or form and encounters ableism on discrimination. If you talk to them, we should understand disability is far more universal than what you expect or accept. So this is what the scene of ableism in Norway. Further, he says that disability could happen. He says, we all know of individuals, we have an impairment. We all know of that grandfather who is slowly slipping into dementia. We all know of a cousin who has an extra chromosome. We all know of that party going friend who took an extra drink, who took that electric scooter, got injured, got into an accident, and now he has a disability. We hear those stories all the time. So disability could happen out of injuries, accidents, wars, conflicts, and what's happening in Ukraine, that's very tragic situation. It could happen out of chance as well as it could happen out of aging. Further, he says that why on earth this ableism happen? What's the reason that on earth this ableism happen? So he gives so many reasons. He mentions the one reason. He says that we construct strict binaries. We say healthy and sick. We say productive and unproductive. We say independent and dependent. We say non-disabled and disabled. So species typical, species deviant. So when we create those binaries, those differentiation, that what we are essentially doing, we are making sure that we maintain the able-bodied norm, something which the COVID-19 pandemic has taught all of us, as it has brought us face to face with our questions of morbidity or mortality. It has reminded us that we could be healthy, strong, resilient, productive, right? Now, further, he says that we are all temporarily abled individuals. He says, now, today or tomorrow, if we get that virus, some of us will become severely sick. Some of us go get hospitalized. Some of us are so badly sick that we end up knocking on the death's door. So that's why what we all have to understand or appreciate is that we are temporarily able bodied individuals. Means to say, anytime we may also become disabled. Our biologies, our psychologies, or they're all in a constant state of flux back in the day. The good old Greek philosopher, the good old Greek philosopher Heraclitus, he said that you don't step into the same river twice. He was right. Nature changes, life changes, our body change. That's why we should not be the prisoners of the binaries. We should not subjugate ourselves to the tyranny of normalcy. This is a normal student, this is normal employee, this is a normal life. So we should try to get rid ourselves from such kind of temporarily abled, such kind of normalcy. So finally, we are all temporarily abled individuals. Now he speaks about the elements of ableism or the ABC of ableism. He says that the main element is here the element of affect emotion. He says, you remember that the response which that individual had, the sense of pity and the sympathy and the compassion, the kind soul at the tram stop which he had shown to him, he did it out of goodwill. That's an emotional impulsive response. The person who had pushed him, it was an emotional, pushed him into the tram. That was an emotional impulsive response. So first element is here element of affect emotion. Second is here behavior. Behavior refers to the fact that how individuals who are non-disabled, when they look at a person who is disabled, they might end up avoiding them, not engaging with them. They stop talking to them. They stop having shown good behavior with them because they feel that they are able and the other person next in front of them is disabled. Next, on which level this ableism manifest? It manifests at three levels in society according to Gagan Chhabra. Number one, individual level, institutional level, and internalized level. At an individual level, interpersonal level, we all know that we have our conscious and unconscious biases. We knowingly or unknowingly engage in actions or behavior which are discriminatory or ableist. So we don't do it on purpose. He says that you remember that very curious lady at sandwich store who just yelled, "Be careful on those steps," because I don't think that she woke up that morning and said, "I want to be a little ableist today." She never thought. Nobody does that, but it happens because we have these conscious, unconscious biases at an institutional level, and there are system processes, structures which implicitly or explicitly might either discriminate against persons with disabilities, exclude them, or victimize them, or valorize them. This is the another reason. Further, he says that far, far too long, thousands of years, persons with disabilities have been excluded, oppressed, marginalized, forgotten. The society has told them that you are not worthy enough, you are not equal enough, you don't deserve all those rights. What has happened is that over the course of the history, these values, these attitudes, they have to be internalized. He says, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not sufficient enough with my ambitions. So these are the three levels today. They manifest ableism according to Gagan Chhabra. Now he says, how do we overcome our ableism? He mentions the three steps. The first steps, he says that we can overcome the ableism to acknowledge that it exists, to acknowledge that we construct binaries, to acknowledge that we have conscious and conscious biases, to acknowledge that we overcome other individuals and ourselves to the tyranny of normalcy. Second step we have here, after we have acknowledged that, it is to in our individual interpersonal interactions. So never judge the book by its cover. The most important is here, never judge the book by its cover. Please ask, don't assume. He says, could you imagine how nice, the pleasant or amazing the conversation would have been if the kind gentle soul on the ram stop would have asked me, do you want to be helped? Instead of pushing me into the tram, the person would have told Gagan Chhabra in a very gentle soul, in a very gentle voice, do you want to be helped? We all swim in the sea of ignorance, spurious assumptions, and the misconceptions all the time. What we need is a much more open minded, inclusive, and empathetic dialogue which each other at an institutional level. You could combat, you could fight the ableism, you can overcome ableism by investing more in systems and the processes and the structures which are accessible. This is the second step to overcome the ableism. And the third step, at internalized levels, persons with disabilities have to come together, mobilize, and tell a narrative to themselves and to the rest of the globe that they are worthy enough. You have to tell to the world that I am worthy enough, they are good enough, they are equal enough, they have equal human dignity, they have equal human rights, and remind everybody that we are all temporarily able bodied individuals. Remember, so if you take this approach that disability is a part of human condition, it's quite universal. Persons with disability are a part of the human diversity that you need to remember. Doesn't matter your age, your gender, your sexual orientation, the national background, the socio-economic class, your linguistic preference, nothing matters. We have to remember the persons with disabilities are the part of the human diversities. So these are the three important different ways, different steps to fight to overcome the ableism. Ableism. Now, finally, Gagan Chhabra, he appeals to the audience, he appeals to the world. Gagan Chhabra says, we should remember that in this beautiful lifetime, we could be strong and vulnerable, we could be healthy and sick, we could be productive and unproductive, we could be non disabled and disabled. So, that's why it's important to build a society which is inclusive. That's why it is important to combat ableism. Let's go on a blind date. Let's challenge our blind spots about disability. Let's create an inclusive society wherein we see each other, wherein we treat each other better. Shall we? Unquote. Gagan Chhabra. So, dear friends, this is how I have tried to bring up the important extract of Gagan Chhabra's TEDx talk. I try to make it more simple, but we do, with due respect to Mr. Gagan Chhabra, that we should really respect the abilities and the disabilities across the world. Every human being is a temporarily abled, temporarily abled, and we need to create an inclusive society. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please do click on the like button, write in the comment box, do subscribe the channel if you're not yet subscribed. Thank you once again. Dear friends, thank you so much for watching this video. You can reach me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com. Please do subscribe the channel, click on the like button for more videos on literature, workbook, pronunciation, grammar, communication skills, presentation skills, interview skills. Stay in tune with Mukesh English. Thank you once again.